over us, searching for plunder, not fearing to face any man. Not fearing to face any man. There is not one of us who has not yet been bloodied, for killing's a part of our trade. And the only thing standing between us and death is strength of arm and speed of blade. So we live every day like it's our last, for all of us know that life's hard and fast. Don't care about tomorrow, don't care about the past. From this is our comradeship made. And it's wonderful living the life of a pirate, with the freedom to take what we can. And we'll sail the world over us, searching for plunder, not fearing to face any man. Not fearing to face any man. And it's wonderful living the life of a pirate.
Wow, I've been coming here a long time, and this is the first time we've had pirates. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Silver Spring. My name is Carolyn Savadkin. I'm today's worship associate, and my pronouns are she, her. From a diversity of cultures, sexualities, genders, and beliefs, we come together into one congregation. We welcome everyone in the fullness of who you are, and we're glad you're here. If you're visiting with us for the first or second time, or would like to learn about how to join our church, Ryan Smith is our welcoming captain. Mary Beth Lerner is our welcoming captain, and she's in the back of the sanctuary. We're flexible. Today's service was created by Reverend Caitlin, who is unfortunately homesick. She asked us to consider what we can learn from the pirates in the early 1700s about democracy and coming together across differences to challenge inequality and the forces of capitalism and empire. Today, we are also happy to welcome special musical guests, Token Entertainment, with Dallas Valley and Russell Bradford. About halfway through today's service, children and youth will head to the fellowship house to do some age-targeted learning together about Thee Not Han. Grown-ups should pick up their kids right after the service. Now it's time to greet one another. I invite those on Zoom to greet one another in the chat, while those of us here in the sanctuary greet one another around the sanctuary. When the music starts, please head back to your seat and stand for our opening hymn. The words to all hymns will be on your screen.
Ready and
Come.
No caravan of despair. Come yet again, come again.
Though you've broken your vows a thousand times, though you've broken your vows a thousand times, though you've
ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. More time. Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come yet again, come.
Yar,
mateys. I be the Reverend Kristen Grassel-Schmidt, pronouns she, her, and hers, your settled minister. And I offer you these words written by the Reverend Caitlin Cotter-Koilberg, your minister of spiritual growth. Ahoy and welcome to you, landlubbers and seafarers, wanderers and lighthouse tenders, rebels and rule makers, and those whose brains and being defy categories and closets. May we be good shipmates to each other here, ready to work together to take in sail in rough seas and breathe through the windless doldrum times, to stand our watch so others may rest, answering smartly to the call, all hands on deck when needed, and doing what it takes to sustain each other for the long haul. May we say aye to joy and belay that to cynicism and despair, coming about to wonder and curiosity, welcoming aboard compassion and courage and creativity, prepared to parley and to honor codes and covenants. Though we've broken our vows 1,000 times, let us weigh anchor to set sail again, steering our way by love, honoring the work we do with and for each other, setting our course for mutual liberation. Come, let us worship together. It's now time to light the flaming chalice, symbol of our free faith. You want me to do the words? Okay. Please join me in saying the words on the screen. May this light warm our hearts with love and caring and guide us in the ways of truth. May this light warm our hearts with love and caring, and guide us in the ways of truth. All right, well, for today's Time for All Ages, I'm going to invite everyone to get comfy right where you are in your seats, and I'm going to tell you a story with some pictures on the screen. Today's story is The Pirate Tree by Brigitte Aurel and Jenny Poe. The gnarled tree on the hill sometimes turns into a pirate ship. A rope serves as an anchor, a sheet as a sail, and Sam is its fearless captain. Today, the tree watches as another sailor approaches. "Can I play?" Agu asks, standing on the ship's leeward side. Sam hoists the sheet up over a branch and glares. "I don't know you. You're not from my street." Agu's face falls. He watches her struggle with a thick rope. No one wants to play with him because he is a newcomer. "Beware here, come pirates," Sam yells. "Arr!" When Sam doesn't so much as look his way, Agu's shoulders slump. Auntie told him to be patient, but he had been patient for days. "We go sailing the warm South Seas," Sam sings, "stealing cargo off mighty ships, robbing diamonds in Nigeria, gold from—" Agu snorts. "There are no diamonds in Nigeria." Sam pauses. The sheet collapses as she lets go of the twine. "How do you know?" "I used to live in Nigeria." Sam's eyes widen. Then she frowns. "What else do you know?" "I sailed on a ship. I can tell you about it," Agu says, his voice rising. They set sail again. The breeze is generous and the ocean is wide before them. They land on a deserted island and find fresh coconuts and precious seashells. Agu shows Sam how to reef the mainsail when the wind gets fierce. They are about to round Cape Horn when Dad calls from the yard. "Sam, dinner time!" "The cook is calling from the galley," Sam says. "Let's go and see what he's caught." Agu coils the thick rope Sam uses for an anchor. "What's your name then?" Sam asks, bunching the sheet under her arm. "I'm Agu." They set off down the slope, treading through waves of grass. "A cool name for a pirate," Sam says. "It means tiger." Sam grins at her new crew member. "You'll sail with me again, won't you?" They are too far away for the tree to hear Agu's answer. Its boughs sigh in the zephyr, waiting for the day it will turn into a pirate ship again and sail the distant seas with two new friends. Our adventures are so much better when we welcome and listen to each other across difference. And in that spirit, we've got a fabulous anthem for today.
Though my sails be torn and tattered, and my mast be turned about, though the night wind chill me to my very soul, though the spray might sting my eye, and the stars no light provide, give me just another morning light to hold. I will not lie me down, this rain a-raging. I will not lie me down in such a storm. And if this night be unblessed, I shall not take my rest until I reach another shore. If the only water left is but salt to wound my thirst, I will drink the rain that falls so steady down. Though night blindness be my gift, if there be thieves upon my drift, I will thank the fog that shelters me along. I will not lie me down, this rain a-raging. I will not lie me down in such a storm. And if this night be unblessed, I shall not take my rest until I reach another shore. Though my mates be drained and weary, and believe their hopes are lost, there's no need for their bones on that blackened bottom. Though death waits just off the bow, we will not answer to him now. We will stand and face the morning light without him. I will not lie me down, this rain a-raging. I will not lie me down in such a storm. And if this night be unblessed, I shall not take my rest until I reach another shore. I will not lie me down, this rain a-raging. I will not lie me down in such a storm. And if this night be unblessed, I shall not take my rest until I reach another shore. Until we reach another shore.
Is the time in our service we set aside to share joys and sorrows. If you have a joy or a sorrow you'd like to share with the whole congregation, I invite you to make a line down the Chalice aisle of the sanctuary. Please make sure to begin by saying your name so everyone knows who you are. Make sure you speak clearly into the microphone. You have to get pretty close to this one. And try to keep your sharing brief so there's time for everyone who wishes to share. And after everyone shares, let's say together, in every joy and sorrow, we are held in love beyond belief. Maybe you'd like to pick up a fidget spinner to use as a prayer wheel. As I offer you this prayer written by the Reverend Caitlin Cotter Coilberg. Spirit of life and love, here we rest together in this moment, seated amidst the green, brown, solid Maryland soil, yet also together and separately at sea. What can guide us in these uncertain, turbulent times? What ballast will be weighty enough? What ship's keel deep enough to keep us upright in this rough and ready ocean? We turn to each other again and again, looking to each other for encouragement and support, looking to our shared values and agreements as a map to chart our course, letting love be the force that guides us, compassion and courage, the wind in our sails, and the hand on our rudder. Inviting each other to be present with the beauty and the danger of each precious and precarious day, awake to our shared responsibility and humanity as we journey together through uncharted waters. May we hear the call of adventure and whimsy and joy, be comforted by the music we create in our quiet moments, and know ourselves to be loved and capable of loving. May we rest in our belonging here, in this space, rest in the calming glitter of ever-shifting light and air, the rhythms of this seafaring life, in the possibilities and potential that flourishes all around us. These things we pray in the name of all that is good and true and holy. Amen. In just a moment, we'll begin a time of personal meditation or reflection or prayer. And if you've suffered a deep loss in the last year, you may stand or raise your hand during the silence if you wish to honor your grief. Now, let us enter into a time of quiet together, grateful for the sounds of life continuing all around us. rest in this love. Children and youth of all ages are always welcome here in the sanctuary, but most Sundays we welcome them to join us in the fellowship house with trained and background check teachers. If you are a kid or teen and you would like to go to the fellowship house, please follow Bobby, Sherry, Sophie, and Erica out to go learn all about Thich Nhat Hanh as the congregation sings you on your way. Our time together is sacred.
The name of this reading is Of Other Spaces. In a lecture to a group of architects in 1967, Paris philosopher Michel Foucault said in words we have translated from the French in 1984 by J. Mankiewicz, "Utopias are sites with no real places. They are sites that have a general relation of direction or inverted analogy with the real space of society. They present society itself in perfected form, or else society turned upside down. But in any case, these utopias are fundamentally unreal spaces. There are also probably in every culture, in every civilization, real places, places that do exist, and that are formed in the very founding of society, which are something like counter sites, a kind of effectively enticed utopia in which the real sites, all the other real sites that can be found within the culture, are simultaneously represented, contrasted, and inverted. Places of this kind are outside of all places, even though they may be possible to indicate their location in reality. Because these places are absolutely different from all the sites that they reflect and speak about, I call them, by way of contrast to utopias, heterotopias. There's probably not a single culture in the world that fails to constitute heterotopias. This is a constant of every human group. But the heterotopias obviously take quite varied forms, and perhaps no one absolutely universal form of heterotopias would be found. The boat is a floating piece of space, a place without a place, that exists by itself, that is closed in on itself, and at the same time is given over to the infinity of the sea. And that from port to port, from tack to tack, it goes as far as the colonies in search of the most precious treasures they conceal in their gardens. You will understand why the boat has not only been our civilization from the 16th century until the present, the great instrument of economic development for some and extracted and exploitation for others, but has been simultaneously the greatest reserve of the imagination. The ship is the heterotopia par excellence. In civilization without boats, dreams dry up, espionage takes the place of adventure, and the police take the place of the pirates.
So this morning's sermon, like the rest of the service, was written by Reverend Caitlin, who's homesick today. It's my pleasure to preach it in her stead, but I know that I will not hold a candle to what she could have done. So here goes. It is hard to be objective about pirates. That's the opening sentence of activist, anthropologist, and anarchist David Graeber's book, Pirate Enlightenment or the Real Libertalia. He notes that most historians don't even try, and that the literature on the subject is sharply divided. It's divided between romantic celebrations of Golden Age piracy and scholarly debates over whether pirates should be best viewed as proto-revolutionaries or as simple murderers, rapists, and thieves. As he writes about, there are lots of different kinds of pirates. Even if you are only talking about the golden age of piracy, that half century of nautical history at the end of the 1600s until 1726, that continues to inspire all sorts of popular culture. And it's worth noting that we remember a lot of those pirates as incredibly scary and violent because the primary weapon they used was terror. It's so much better to have the ship you're chasing give up in fear so you don't have to fight, right? Especially if you are fighting in solidarity with your fellow working class seamen. You want to take over that ship without fighting and then recruit the crew. There are many different kinds of pirates, but as Graeber notes, many did indeed create, however briefly, a kind of rebel culture and civilization, though surely brutal in many ways, developed its own moral code and democratic institutions. Perhaps the best that could be said of them is that their brutality was in no way unusual by the standards of their time, but their democratic practices were almost completely unprecedented. This is the sort of pirate most appreciated by radical historians, folks like Marcus Rediker, who writes bottom-up history, a version of what the late, great Howard Zinn called people's history, about the maritime peoples of the Atlantic, from black folks escaping enslavement to Irish dockhands to the working folks of many backgrounds and nations who mutinied and went pirate in a desperate attempt to seek justice for the common sailor. In a podcast about the proto-Unitarian Puritans of New England and the pirates they executed, Unitarian historian Reverend Dr. Susan Ritchie writes these words: "The pirates had their own ideas about covenant, a tradition dating back to the days of the earliest buccaneers who lived communally, but it was one that was also influenced by religious radicals who had fled England in the mid-17th century to settle in the West Indies. These religious radicals, some of whom were anti-Trinitarian, they all practiced a form of congregational polity that was grounded in covenant and democracy and was far more radical than anything anyone had seen in Boston. It's actually known to lots of 8, 9, and 10-year-olds that the pirates themselves had codes about how they would conduct themselves, which is true. They had kind of operational covenants between themselves and agreements to which they would sign their names before they would embark together on a journey. And some of them were pretty radical in terms of not just making contracts about how treasure would be divided up, but a commitment to take care of anybody who might be injured in the course of their adventures, and a kind of democracy. The captain of a pirate ship could actually be overthrown by the democratic vote of his men. You did have glimmers of a democratic and covenantal society right there on the pirate ships themselves. When you think about it, in some weird ways, the pirates and the Puritans have quite a bit in common, because they're both groups of people who hated hierarchy, who associated hierarchy with oppression, and who longed to find some kind of space on the earth where their personal practice wasn't dictated by the state. When you think about it, actually, the one place on earth where you would be free of direct interference of state was on the open sea. Life as a working-class sailor in the 16 and 1700s was horrific. It was a life of, as Marcus Rediker points out, cramped quarters, poor victuals, brutal discipline, low wages, devastating diseases, disabling accidents, and premature death. Sign me up. Most of the folks who turned pirate for whatever reason, who became villains of all nations, against all flags, at war with the companies of their time, and the nations that killed to protect those companies, only lived for a year or two. But for that year or two, they had ready money, an abundance of food and drink, equity in shared resources, care for the injured, and joyous camaraderie, all, as Rediker explains it, as expressions of an ethic of justice. They were sometimes pretty literally expressing justice. One of the things they would do when they took over the ship was put the officers on trial with the crew as witnesses. There's one account of a crew who testified their captain was actually pretty great, so the pirates gave him a bunch of treasure, put him in a boat, and let him go free. In a time when the gap is once again rising between rich and poor, with the cost of living skyrocketing and nations are continuing violence against civilians, the pirate way of life can begin to hold a certain appeal. Can you imagine holding the captains of industry responsible for the harm they do? Yeah. Just thinking about that feels so good, doesn't it? Yeah, we've all thought about that, haven't we? The pirates of the early 1700s were not just at war with the brutality and oppression of merchant ships in the Royal Navy. They were living out a story of a different way of doing things, a different way of being. Pirate ships of this moment were short-lived heterotopias, where things were settled democratically, the injured were cared for, and all were comrades to each other. But there was also a pirate utopia. Apparently, in the 1700s, a group of pirates who'd spent their early careers in the Caribbean settled in Madagascar and created with the people who already lived there a mythical place called Libertalia. I want a movie about this. Libertalia is an utopian place like Wakanda or Atlantis or Barbie Land. Specifically, it was a pirate utopia popular in the imagination of Europeans of that era. Marcus Rediker wrote, "These pirates who settled in Libertalia would be vigilant guardians of the people's rights and liberties. They would stand as barriers against the rich and powerful of their day. By waging war on behalf of the oppressed against the oppressors, they would see that justice was equally distributed." In Libertalia, all are governed by an elected council. In Libertalia, all humans are equal regardless of color, customs, or religious rights. In Libertalia, leadership is open to all, without distinction of nature or color. English professor Lincoln Fowler described Libertalia as an integrated, harmonious, multiracial, and anti-imperialist society, a flourishing democratic pirate utopia funded by the booty captured off of Spanish galleons, Portuguese men of war, French brigantines, and English schooners, making these pirates oceanic Robin Hoods, stealing from the colonizers to fund their socialist experiment. Can I get an amen? Amen. Libertalia was described by that 18th century professor as a place committed to political and economic justice that was defiant against human bondage at the height of the transatlantic slave trade. The Libertalians were said to attack slave ships and liberate the enslaved persons found there, many of whom chose to become citizens of Libertalia. Marcus Rediker has long argued that whether or not Libertalia existed, this kind of radical democracy, founded in discussion-based decision-making, definitely existed in miniature on pirate ships of that golden era. Kind of like Barbie Land might not exist, but women's colleges and Girl Scout camps definitely do. Wakanda might not exist, but spaces within UUism for people of color to gather and support each other do. What's exciting about David Graeber's last book is that he suggests a form of Libertalia did exist. There were no pirate kings of Madagascar, but there were democratically elected pirate captains of land-based pirate communities, where pirates married into indigenous communities and used their democratic conflict resolution skills in an official capacity for the locals, and their descendants are apparently still there. The Libertalia myth got started because some of these pirates intentionally created a mythos of pirate kingdoms, even going so far as to send representatives of the mythical kingdoms to meet with European monarchs, and creating entire dramatic role plays where they pretended to have little monarchies with their own courts to bamboozle visitors on their shore. Real pirate history is every bit as intense as your favorite pirate shows and movies. David Graeber discovered this history by accident when he was doing other research on Madagascar and ended up dating a pirate descendant. Even for the guy who helped launch the Occupy movement and the phrase 99%, that redefined how we think about our economic structure. That's pretty wild. And this is exciting because it gives us a different glimpse into what's possible. Not just short-term, covenanted communities of the sea, but something rooted and longer lasting, something we can understand even if we've never set foot on a sailing vessel. It's a vision of a paradise on earth, a paradise of community. Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker and Rita Nakashima Brock wrote in their theological and historical text, Saving Paradise, that entering paradise in this life is not an individual achievement, but it is the gift of communities that train perception and teach ethical grace. Paradise provides deep reservoirs for resistance and joy. It calls us to embrace life's aching tragedies and persistent beauties, to labor for justice and peace, to honor one another's dignity, and to root our lives in the soil of this great and difficult earth. The forces of empire and capitalism killed off most of the justice-seeking pirates, but not all of them, and not all of their stories. The stories they spun like yarn into rope to rig the sails of their ships. Those stories lived on and live on. Stories of folks willing to defy the entire world for a chance to be in real community with each other in a new way. Stories of adventure and romance and defiance against the evil of emerging capitalism and the coming dehumanizing era of industrialization. Stories that defied rigid notions of gender and sexuality, of what is expected. You should ask Reverend Caitlin about Anne Bonny and Mary Read sometime. Stories of pirates give us hope for a world beyond the rigid and exhausting bounds of capitalism and empire. Give us hope for a world where people matter to each other, not for what they can produce, not for how much labor can be beaten or coerced or dragged out of them, but for themselves. Where what we have is shared equitably, where we care for the sick and injured and disabled, and where everyone comes together to create the rules we will live by. We can find ways to live into that promise, to create places for this vision of paradise, to be heterotopias centered in love and working together for liberation. May it be so, and may we make it so.
Unlike most other spaces, UUCSS is not a fee-for-service. We don't sell tickets to worship or charge kids to go to religious education. This congregation and the impact we have in people's lives in our community are possible through your generosity, financially and otherwise. The many gifts we give and receive here help us to do greater good together than any of us can do alone. There are several ways to make your gift to UUCSS. If you are here in person, you can also place your offering in one of the offering plates as it is passed around in just a moment. However you plan to give, please join me in dedicating all of our gifts to the missions of this congregation. The words are on your screen. To create joyful spiritual community where we connect deeply, serve, and mobilize for our collective liberation.
I was down on my luck on the Isle of Tortuga, starving to death when I heard a man say, got the fastest square rigger in all the West Indies, and I need 40 men who can help me away. When I asked the old salt of the work he was meaning, said taking the fat Spanish ships on the sea. When I asked of the wages of all me hard labor, he threw back his head and he bellowed at me. No purchase, no pay is the rule of the day. If we don't take a prize, then you'll go empty-handed. You'll fight like a dog to help pluck a fine jewel. If anyone stands against us, you'll help them to die. We shipped out on a Friday to ply the sweet trade, and weren't gone but a week till we spied our fair prey. 3 fat Spanish ladies stalled out to windward, but we had the surprise and we seized the day. We engaged them full on and we fought like the devil. One of us, 3 of them, yet we won't let them flee. And I had but one question for rugged sea captain: why did you never say they'd be firing at me? No purchase, no pay is the rule of the day. If we don't take a prize, then you'll go empty-handed. You'll fight like a dog to help pluck a fine jewel. If anyone stands against us, you'll help them to die. We fired our big guns and we captured those galleons. They were as full of gold as 3 galleons can be. I made a small fortune from my one adventure and retired from a short career in piracy. Now I sit here in this fine Maryland tavern, drinking the best that my money will buy. I'll work and I'll fight and I'm still a fine sailor, but there ain't enough money to pay me to die. No purchase, no pay is the rule of the day. If we don't take a prize, then you'll go empty-handed. You'll fight like a dog to help pluck a fine jewel. If anyone stands against us, you'll help them to die. No purchase, no pay is the rule of the day. If we don't take a prize, then you'll go empty-handed. You'll fight like a dog to help pluck a fine jewel. If anyone stands against us, you'll help them to die.
All right, I'd like to invite Catherine forward to give our announcements.
Good morning. My name is Catherine Buckler, and I'm a member of your Board of Trustees. My pronouns are she and her. We gather for worship every Sunday morning here at UUCSS, both in person and by Zoom. But Sunday mornings are just one small part of who we are and what we do as a congregation. We are a vibrant collective of lay volunteers, leaders, and paid staff. We are growing relationships with our neighbors here in Silver Spring. We are a member of the a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Church, or I guess I didn't get enough sleep. Is it the light? It's blinding. We are a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and we are one small part of the global UU faith movement. I hope everyone will look over the ways to connect highlighted in the printed program that the Sunday support team handed out on your way in. We also have 4 announcements we'd like to draw special attention to this morning. Over the last few weeks, the board has been discerning how best to bring our shared hopes and dreams for UUCSS in balance with our financial reality. The board has prepared a draft budget for the 24-25 church year. Before that draft goes to the congregation for approval at our annual meeting on Sunday, July 2nd, mark it on your calendar, we hope everyone will join us for one of 3 info sessions where we can share details and answer your questions. The info sessions are scheduled for this coming Wednesday, April 10th, on Zoom at 7 p.m., Sunday, April 14th, a week from today, in person here in the sanctuary after the service, and then the following Friday, April 19th, on Zoom at 2 p.m. The links for the Zoom will be in the All Church email, and probably on Facebook too. Maybe not on Facebook, All Church email. Groups.io, that's it. We hope everyone will join us on Sunday, April 21st for the Earth Day service, which this year will be, this is another announcement. We hope everyone will join us on Sunday, April 21st for the Earth Day service, which this year will be about the wisdom of trees. Toward the very end of that service, we will have a fire drill. Very important for us to do so that everyone can practice what to do in the event of a fire emergency. The drill will occur after the final hymn. And that's it for the announcements.
Please join me in the words of Chalice extinguishing on the screen. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Here you go, that'll help. And I invite everyone to rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn. So many people's favorite hymn, number 1064, Blue Boat Home. Can't think of a better one to end a service about pirates. Won't you please be seated for this benediction by Reverend Caitlin. May we, shipmates, see each other's gifts and wisdom and work together with imagination and compassion and courage to sail our ship towards liberation. The seas will be rough, the winds and current may not always push us the direction we long to go. Sometimes we may run aground, but there is another truth. You are not alone. We are not alone. Our worship now has ended and our service begins.
Old seamen, wherever you're bound, and always let Nelson's proud memory go round, and pray that the wars and the tumults may cease, for the greatest of gifts is a sweet lasting peace. May the Lord put an end to these cruel old wars, and bring peace and contentment to all our brave tars.